I love nuance, and I probably go far past. There's like nuance, and then I leap over that. Because yeah, just even like when I'm writing a script, I'm always finding ways to incorporate horror titles organically into the dialogue. There at times I'll find ways to incorporate like slasher movie taglines into the
Yeah.
dialogue, and then of course I'm very visual, so I'm kind of visualizing things as I'm writing it, and even when we're on set, I'm finding ways to like add something to a scene somewhere. I know there's a lot of horror fans who don't particularly like that. They think it's too much, it's too on the nose. I love that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Fred Decker did it a lot in Night of the Creeps, and it's like so it's nothing new,
Yeah.
but it's just I love that. I love being like, "Oh," when I watch
Yes.
a movie and like picking up on things like, or going, "I wonder if that was an homage to this or that was a reference to this." Now, what's funny is as I'm reading reviews that are coming out, there are times where a critic will say, "Oh, they reference," and they'll, X, Y, and Z. X and Y, I consciously did, but there'll be another movie that I guess I subconsciously either pulled from or accidentally put it in there in some way, whether it was from like like something visual or through the writing, and
Yeah.
I'll go, huh, I wasn't intending to have that in there, but I'm fine with it because I like. And the other funny thing too was, and you'll have to excuse me, I'm super long winded,
That's fine.
um,
Makes my job
but
easier.
on Letterbox, which this is like our biggest release, so it's probably gotten the most reviews and attention and stuff through Letterbox. And it's been really interesting reading those reviews, good and bad. But there was someone who got on there and they said this was finished before the new "I Know What You Did Last Summer," yet they managed to homage two shots almost perfectly from that film. Like, how did they do that? And it was not intentional,
Yeah.
but I guess it was a couple of the shots that we did with the crossbow,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
because there's the scene in the new movie that has the I can't think of the harpoon gun.
Yeah.
So I guess maybe we I'd have to go back and look, but I guess the way we shot it kind of mimicked a couple of, which we did shoot ours before that.
Yeah.
Um, and it's even the same with Hard Eyes. Like we finished our movie about a year before Heart Eyes came out.
Okay.
Yet the beginning of our movie with all the newsreels is very similar to the opening of Hard Eyes
Yeah.
with those newsreels. So that was one of those situations where I was like, "Fuck!" Now people are gonna think we're copying Hard Eyes,
Yeah.
but that's what happens. So
So the
hopefully I
character.
answered your question.
Yeah, you did. So like, I have to ask. The opening kill feels very like The Burning to me. I don't know if you were
Mhm.
referencing that
Oh
specifically.
yeah,
Okay. Okay.
yeah. But when he raises the hedge
Yeah.
trimmers, the
Yeah.
clippers to bring them, that was like 100% an homage
Okay.
to that shot from The Burning with
Yeah.
Cropsey. So yeah, that was on purpose.
The whole the that meme with Leonardo DiCaprio like pointing at the screen or whatever, like that was
Hmm.
like this entire movie. Their visual references are like, because Harry Warden, you drop that,
Hmm.
that's from My Bloody Valentine. So
Yeah.
like all these like you have the iconic line from Halloween in there. Yeah, it was just fun to like see how many I could pick up.
Yeah. Well, that's and again, I do that purposely. And to me, it's like I put so many of them in there because you're not always going to catch them on the first like run through.
Right.
So I like when I can watch a movie and then go back and pick up on something new the next time I watch it because there's
Yeah.
so much happening. And so that's kind of by design how a lot of those references, the reason they're peppered uh, so great, like generously across the movie, because I feel like you're not going to pick up on every single one, no matter how big of a horror fan you are, because there's something like 60 or 70 different references throughout the whole film.
Oh wow.
And yeah, it's so, and I'm a huge slasher fan, so it makes me feel really good to hear you say that it's obviously a love letter to the genre, to this that subgenre, but then at the same time, like when I wrote it and then when we made it, we were trying to where it would still stand on its own two legs. It wasn't just a
Yeah.
throwback to every other slasher movie that's ever been made. It's still kind of its own thing.
What really makes it stand out is like some of the inventive kills in this, especially Felicia Rose's death is
Hmm.
especially brutal. So
Yeah.
was that like how you wrote it, or did and how did that change?
No, that's the way I wrote it in the script is exactly how we were
Okay.
able to shoot it. We we did use the only thing that changed was we did use initially fake intestines.
Okay.
In the past on other movies, I've used real pig intestines. It is gross, but it also looks fantastic on camera. And I wasn't thrilled with how the intestines were looking, the fake intestines. So we went and I called a local place. It's like 20 minutes from here. And I was like, hey, I need some real pig intestines. Do you guys sell those? And they were like, well, yes. And I was kind of telling them what we were doing. And they said, how about this? If you come Thursday morning, that's when we freshly slaughter the pigs. So I can get you, I'll get you three for the price of one.
Oh, nice.
So I went and picked up three pig intestines. I had to bring a 5 gallon bucket and trash
See?
bags and everything. And then they sat in my refrigerator for about a week and a half until we were able to use them. And they were gross, but they look great on camera. But yeah, that scene was the way it was shot was exactly how it was written in the script. So we didn't really have to like compromise on it or anything. Um, and that whole thing came. It's like I've always, when you go like you'll go to use the bathroom somewhere, and when you flush the toilet, it sounds like it's got a jet engine
Yeah.
attached to it. And I've always thought like, why in the hell are these so powerful?
Right.
And then that was actually the inspiration for the kill was
Okay.
these toilets that have like way too strong of pressure shooting water through them.
Yeah. So when you're coming up with these kills, like what is your general process and like how do you know you know, like what when's a good time to have a kill?
Um, I mean, so in the original script there was only 19 deaths, and then what ended up happening was when we did the Indiegogo, we did a perk where it was like get killed in the film, and we figured a few people would grab one and come in and do it because we put it at a price of $500. So we thought maybe a couple of people, like we took a chance, a leap of faith. Like we honestly, me personally, I would not pay $500 to get killed in a film, but we were like, let's see what happens. And we had 23 people. By the time the 23rd person got a kill in the film, we had to cut it off because it was getting to be too much,
Yeah.
because I didn't want the film to feel like it was just kill 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 kill, because there is a lot of story and characterization and stuff in it, and I was worried that the balance would get thrown off completely by having too many kills in the movie, which is weird for me to say because I'm a big gore hound. Um, and then the other issue I was running into is because originally with the doctor, his MO is that he kills people with medical instruments. So the kills initially, except for maybe like a couple, they were all based around some kind of medical death,
Okay.
or medical instrument is how he killed them. But after a while, it's like there's only so many kills you can do with a scalpel. The other thing too is like I wanted each death to be its own individual kill. I didn't want him to just like stab people. I
Right.
didn't want four or five different people get stabbed, four or five people get killed with an axe. It was like I wanted each kill to be its own individual thing, to where by the end of the movie, it's almost hard for you to pick which was your favorite kill because they're all so different or unique or elaborate or whatever. And when you have over 40 kills, like I started to struggle with coming up with not only organic ways for him to kill them, but I had to get away from the whole like only medical instruments completely.
Yeah.
Um, so then it was like, he finds a double-sided axe and he kills three people in one fell swoop. So we did do like three people getting killed in two sequences. The triple throat slice was another one, but pretty much all the other kills, it was like he had a unique way of offing each person. Even if he's using like the same thing, like he finds the broken paper cutter arm
Oh
and
yeah.
he kills, he decapitates the one guy, but then he splits the other guy's face up the middle, like the one kill in Friday the 13th Part 7. That was an homage to that movie. So, um, as far as finding a balance, it was really just doing it in a way where it made sense for how he may kill those people. But then there was a couple of times where I'm like, we have so many kills, he's gonna have to go on a murder spree or two. So
Right.
there is that one murder spree sequence um, in the film where he just kills like a whole slew of people at the party when he first comes in.
Yeah. It must have been really cool to be able to kill like Felissa Rose, like a genre legend.
Mm.
So how did she get involved with the film?
So my producing partner and I, Eric, we have a mutual friend. His name is Lance Wagner, and I knew going into this that we were going to try to get some name actors, and B, I wanted one of them to be Felissa because Eric and I both are real picky. So we knew if we're going to get people in the film who are known in the industry or horror icons, like they need to be strong performers. They need to be able to carry their scenes. So Felissa's one of those. Like she's a very strong actor. So I knew Lance was friends with her, so he got me in touch with Felissa, sent her the script, told her what part. She read it. She loved the script, the role. She got on the phone with Eric and I, and initially it was just to kind of, I guess, feel us out to see like, and Eric and I are super laid back, like, so it was just like he and I talking to Felissa for like an hour, just not just about the movie, but all kinds of stuff, our love of film, and I can remember where I was and who I was with the first time I ever saw Sleepaway Camp. So that was like really surreal being on the phone with Felissa, and I don't know if you've ever met her before, but I mean, she's extremely energetic and her enthusiasm is like really infectious. She's extremely kind and she's got like a toddler's level of energy. So it's like every time that you talk to her, it's the best day ever. So she's just such a cool person. She's super down to earth and so yeah, so having her on the project was pretty awesome. And then being able to kill her in the movie was really cool because that's the other thing. Like her death is completely ludicrous, but she's such a great actor that she sells it with
Yeah.
her performance. Like she sounds like she's dying. No matter how ridiculous the death is, like her performance just she killed it, no pun intended. And I think that's what makes her death not just one of the more memorable kills in the movie, but also one of the more effective ones in the movie because she sounds like she's in tremendous anguish,
Yeah. Okay.
and that's what makes it so great.
Yeah. So yeah, obviously you mentioned Sleepaway Camp. So what was your
Mhm.
like entry point, your very first slasher?
Um, yeah, if I'm being entirely honest, I don't remember what. Probably one of the Friday the 13th would have been my uh, that's what I'm thinking. It's and I know that sounds terrible. It's like what kind of horror fan am I? I can't remember the first slasher I ever saw, but it's one of those things where it's like I grew up on a steady diet of horror ever since I was
Yeah.
about 5 years old, and I've seen so many horror films. I can tell you the film that got me into horror and like the supernatural and the macabre, and that was Ghostbusters. Like
Okay.
that's the movie I remember seeing for the first time that was fun and funny and it freaked me out. And like I said, I was only 5 years old. So that's what really like got me into horror. And then from there, it was like, I would just, every time we went to the rental store, it was, I was getting The Gate or Chud or, um, one of the Halloween movies or, a full moon feature or so, it was
Yeah.
just all over the place. So, but I always gravitated towards slasher films, particularly like the silent killers, which is why the Doctor is the way he is. I always like a killer that has personality through body language,
Yeah.
and then they're all pretty much all business. I like killers that have personality, Chucky, Freddy, and stuff like that, but they're not my favorite types of slashers. Mine are the silent killers. Um, but yeah, I would say that's probably one of the Friday the 13th would be, I would say, my introduction to slashers. But like I said, I've seen so many over the years that it's hard to pinpoint back to what the first slasher was for me anyway.
So what is it about slashers that you love? Like why that of all the subgenres?
Um, I think it's it's several things. One is, even though to some degree they are a bit ridiculous. I feel like in real life most killers they're not walking around with a mask or anything. Most what would be slashers in real life are serial killers, and they have a face and they have a name, and they're not somebody to root for. And I'm sure the situations their victims never had a great time with them. But like with slasher films, it's like to some degree there is a bit of realism there because there are people who walk around and stalk people with a knife, so that makes them more terrifying than say something that's a little less realistic, like a monster or Pinocchio coming to life or whatever, or
Yeah.
a leprechaun. Um, but then also they like a lot of horror films up until a few years ago, I was very much like a hypochondriac. I was absolutely terrified of death. Not so much death itself, but just more like how I would die. And so horror films have always been kind of a catharsis for me. And
Yeah.
I would say the most horror films that put death front and center would be slasher films because it's someone stalking and killing the whole movie. There's usually a body count, so there's a lot of death from beginning to end. So you're kind of forced to face that throughout the entirety of the film. So for me, that's kind of I would say um, why I gravitated towards those movies, because it was a fun way to face death and then walk away with a smile on my face. Because most of the times you had fun watching it, whether it was because of the cheesiness of the dialogue or even some of the kills, they look cheesy. It's like, but still, you're having a good time watching these movies. So in a lot of ways, for me, it was like a catharsis. And I still enjoyed a lot of other subgenres, but slashers were just always ones that I gravitated to because plus there's just something cool about like a stylized killer who's got
Yeah.
some level of personality, and then it's a lot of times it's a who done it, so you're trying to figure out who the killer is, and there's mystery elements, there's fun characters, and there's it's so. And I also feel like a lot of the tropes that we're so used to in horror films all kind of derive from slashers and then have kind of spilled over into a lot of the other horror subgenres. So they've really kind of left their mark on horror in a big way.
Yeah, for sure. So now what came up like how did you come up with the mask? Like what you wanted him to look like?
So at the time that I wrote the script, I didn't when I was writing, I didn't have a specific idea, but what ended up happening was around the time I was writing, it was towards the tail end of the pandemic. So the plague doctor was still very much like in the zeitgeist, and people were posting about it, and there were memes and everything else. And just kind of clicked one day where I thought, um, it would. I wonder why no one's ever used a plague doctor for a killer. And I guess they somewhat have in horror films, but it's never been as prevalent as like what we've done with it in New Year's Eve. Um, and plus, I'm a big true crime fan, so I really am fascinated by Jack the Ripper.
Yeah.
So when I was coming up with the idea of who the doctor is and what he looks like and everything, it was always it was like it was a doctor mixed. So it was like he created this mask at home. It had to be something that looked like it was homemade and that kind of a thing, and it needed to look like a plague doctor because he's a doctor. So uh I got with a friend of ours named BJ Emick. Eric and I did, and then I gave him kind of all the details of what I was looking for in terms of the doctor. He needed to have that very iconic looking silhouette, much like Jack the Ripper has, and then of course mix that like a hybrid with a plague doctor, and then ultimately that's what we settled on. And then I'd come up with, you know, doing the red vest with the matching red gloves to give it a little bit more character and make it stand out a bit more. And then when I was writing the script, I knew the killer was, used medical techniques and instrumentation and stuff to kill. So that was the other thing. Like most every killer that you come across, they have their signature weapon. So for
Yeah.
him, I wanted it to be the scalpel because when people think of doctors or surgeons, they think of the scalpel. So they're synonymous there. Um, and then once we had the illustrations done and to a point where we were like, yes, we love the look of this mask and everything, we then got with a mask maker, sent it off. The mask maker, he's out of Louisville, Kentucky, and he put the mask together and went through a couple different variations, but tweaked it here and changed this a bit here, and then yeah, and then what you see there is all based off these illustrations that BJ had done. So it actually came to it's exactly the way I envisioned it in my head, like when I was coming up with the idea, because I
Yeah.
wanted it to have a metal looking beak, and I didn't want it to stick straight out. I wanted it to curve down. I wanted the furrowed brow, so he looks pissed off all the time. So it was like BJ did a fantastic job taking all those little elements and then creating the mask, and then the mask maker, Sean Cowan is his name, he did a great job building it based off the illustrations. And then of course Jesse McDonald portrays the doctor in the movie, and he did an awesome job too. So
So one of my favorite scenes in the movie is a conversation about like the very few New Year's Eve horror movies. So I'm
yeah.
kind of curious, like, what is your favorite New Year's Eve horror movie?
um Favorite New Year's Eve horror, probably Terror Train. Terror
Okay.
Train is
Yeah.
definitely one. I would say it's one of my favorite. Occasionally you get people, they're like, oh, P2 and stuff like that, but there's a really good one out there that nobody ever talks about. It's called Steel Trap, about these people who are stuck inside of a high rise on New Year's Eve,
Okay.
and it's almost like Saw meets a New Year's Eve party, and it's really good too. But I think Terror Train, because I watch a lot of the same horror movies over. That's like my comfort food.
Yeah.
And Terror Train is one of those. I love Terror Train. So it's definitely my favorite. And it's the original. I haven't seen the remakes. I don't know if they're any good or not, the ones on Tubi. But yeah, the original with Jamie Lee Curtis is I
Yeah.
like that one a lot. There's really not a whole lot. That was
Yeah.
another reason that I liked that we were doing a New Year's Eve movie, because it puts us in a niche category, because there's just really not that many to choose from.
Yeah.
And so that definitely helped. And it was another way of also helping make it unique as a concept.
I think my favorite is probably New Year's Evil. Um,
I like that one too.
I
Yeah.
like the killer going through the time zones, like killing, like
Mm,
and calling in.
yeah.
That's great. Yeah. So I'm kind of curious, one of my favorite filmmakers a couple years ago did Haunt Season, and he like documented his journey on YouTube and like really discussed some of the behind the scenes aspects of delivering a horror movie. It's like
Hmm.
deliverables and kind of the technical process. So I'm kind of curious, like, has that process gotten easier over time? Like,
Uh, not really. I wish I could say yes. It's interesting. So the film got picked up by Cineverse, which is the biggest company that we've dealt with up to this point. And I'm the technical side of Blood Moon Pictures, so I was the one who had to give them and put together and compile and export and do all that with the deliverables. And it was a laundry list of stuff that we had never dealt with before. So it was actually more time consuming because I'm also the one who deals with a lot of the promotions with putting the films out and the marketing of it and everything. But in the month leading up to the movie coming out, a majority of my time was spent um, providing them with everything that they needed. The other thing too is I had to put together a brand new trailer,
oh,
and
wow.
not only did I have to put a trailer together, but be, because of the way it works on a lot of these streaming platforms, they will not accept a trailer. Like the bigger ones won't accept a trailer that's got a lot of violence, blood, cussing, sexual innuendos, things of that. Basically, what our movie is.
Right.
So they came to me and they said, "Look, we need you to cut a trailer. We need it done in like a week, and it has to be G rated. It can't have any killing, blood, cussing, sexual remarks, nothing." And I was like, "Well, how the fuck am I supposed to put a trailer together? Like, you literally are telling me to make a trailer with based off of what our movie is, like, but I can't use any of that. So what am I supposed to do?" So I kind of had a panic attack. I calmed myself down, and then I put what I consider a PG trailer together, because there is like a gay joke in it and a couple other like more risque jokes, and it's the trailer that you see like on Amazon and a few others now. And thankfully it worked. But what was funny was there's at the end of the trailer there's that little bumper where you see the doctor knock the hammer out of Moses's hand, and it flies back and it hits Brian in the face.
Oh
And on
yeah.
the bridge of his nose, he's got that little cut with just a little bit of blood coming down. And after I sent them the trailer, they approved it, but then they came back and they were like, "Is there any way that you could digitally remove that little trickle of blood in the cut on his nose?"
Oh
And
geez.
I was like, "Are you kidding me? Really? That?" Um, so, I mean, the movie talks about eating ass,
Yeah.
and you're worried about this tiny little drop of blood in the trailer. But anyway,
Yeah.
and I said, "Well, I will have to get with our digital guy, and he could remove it, but it probably will be another week before I can get it back to you." And they were in a time crunch, so they were like, "We'll just go with it." And thankfully it worked. Like, they didn't have any problems over that little trickle of blood, but I didn't realize how stringent the rules were
Right.
with
Yeah.
dealing with a larger company. And that was the other thing too. Like, with this movie, I mean, the whole thing was shot in like 6K. So the files were much larger. And so we sent the movie off to be professionally color corrected, which we had never done that before. So we dealt with somebody in the industry. Um, we also got with a professional sound designer, and we have a 5.1 surround mix, which we had never had before. We were also provided with all the stems. which once now we're in the process now of working on international distribution. And of course, we have to provide all of that because when it goes over to certain countries, they have to remove the dialogue track so they can just do, so they can dub it in their language. So it's actually with this one, when you go bigger and better, it's more involved. So
Yeah.
I don't want to say it's necessarily more difficult. It's just more time consuming because there is more things involved. And when I was dealing with like, well, I'll use this as for an example. When I was dealing with the sound guy, I edited the film. So when I got with the sound designer, he's like, I need this, this, and this in this type of file. And I do video work for a living, but he's asking me for these industry standard file types that I've never worked with. So I'm on the phone with him going, dude, I have no clue what you're talking about. So he had to walk me through the process on exporting these file types that I could then send to him via Dropbox because the system that he used and the programs and the software and everything was totally different than what I edited the film with. And the only way he was going to be able to convert it to do what he needed to do was if I got him this very specific file type. So it was things of that nature. So it was just like there was a bit of a learning curve. And this is very much a long-winded way of saying no, it hasn't been easier. It has been more involved, but we're past all that now. But what it did do is it's
Yeah.
like I've always said when you make a movie, it's learning what not to do next time. But with New Fear's Eve, it was a mix. It was learning some things that we shouldn't do next time, but it was also learning things that we're going to have to do to be more prepared, especially if we're going to continue to distribute our films through larger studio-based companies and things. So
So how did you end up with Cineverse? Like, and did you have like other offers?
yes, that was the other thing that was completely different with this project. Once the trailer went out, well, let me say this first. On all of our previous films, it's usually us reaching out, trying to find distribution. When the trailer for New Fear's Eve came out, we started getting offers almost immediately from companies from all over the world.
Oh wow.
Uh, and it was one after the other. And it was really weird because we weren't used to that.
Yeah.
And so Jeffrey Reddick, he's the creator of Final Destination, is a producer on the project. He acts in the movie. He was part of, I would say, the inspiration. He was the little Jiminy Cricket in our ear saying, look, don't just take any offer, hold out, because you guys are doing bigger, better things here, and you need to make sure that it gets the best home, the best offer possible. So that's what we did. We held off, which is another reason why it took so long for the film to finally come out. And what ended up happening is Jeffrey was talking to Brad Miska, because at the time Brad was still with Bloody Disgusting. He said, hey, I'm working on this movie that I think you might be interested in. It's called New Fear's Eve. It's a slasher comedy. He sent it to Brad. Brad watched it. Brad was like, I really like that. I think Cineverse would be interested in it. Brad sent it to Cineverse. Cineverse looked at it, and then they got in touch with us and said, we like your movie. We want to pick up your movie.
I love
So
that.
that's how it came to be at Cineverse. And of course, immediately we were like, yes, because that's home of Terrifier. And of course,
Yeah.
at that point, we knew that the Silent Night, Deadly Night remake was going to be coming out, and then eventually the Return to Silent Hill. So it was like having our film under the umbrella that was a part of the same catalog of those films. We thought that was really cool, and that was exactly why we held out. We were holding out for a larger company that I guess held a bit more weight. It had would bring more gravitas to the fact that we were putting the movie out, and so that's how it found a home at Cineverse. And overall, it's been a really good working relationship. And I don't know if do you know Tony Wash?
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, he's a filmmaker. I met him when he was just a filmmaker, and like we were on panels and stuff together. Now he's the programming director for Screambox, which Screambox is underneath the umbrella of Cineverse. And he was actually at Horror Hound a couple weekends ago. So we got to like kind of hang out with him and talk to him about like the inner workings of Screambox and Cineverse and that sort of a thing. So that was kind of cool. Um, and of course he was asking us, he's like, be honest, how has your experience been with us? And we were honest. We told him things that we were like, these are things that we like. These were expectations we had that weren't necessarily met. These are things that we really enjoyed, and here's some things maybe you could work on. They've been really cool and open, and all the like conferences and stuff that we've had. We've had conferences with like, one of the higher ups at the company, and he was super nice, and everybody there has been like really cool and interested and willing to work with us and everything. And we haven't been under their thumb. Like that's what we were worried about most, is especially now that they're like more of a studio based company, because thanks to Terrifier, that put them in a position to where, they're picking up larger projects, doing bigger productions. So our fear going into it being the indie guys was, are they going to try to tell us how to do things? And, what's that going to be like?
Yeah.
And that hasn't been the case at all. So everybody's been really cool and not tried to like order us around or take the movie and go, okay, now it's ours and we're doing what we want with it. You guys sit over there and just let things happen. Like we've been very involved, and overall it's been different, but like a good different.
Yeah. Well, I just have a couple minutes left. Just to wrap up, like you mentioned like reviews earlier. Like, what is that like at this level? Like getting the reception that you have and kind of digesting, like especially negative reviews. How do you like digest those?
In the beginning, negative reviews kind of got to me. I have a much thicker skin now, so I don't take things to heart like I did. To be honest, now I kind of, they're more amusing than anything. I will tell you the big difference that we've had with this movie versus our other ones is that when it finally came out and people were able to watch it, we've had, I guess you could say, industry level reviewer type situations where just regular people watch it and then they've hated it so much that they've like, I'll use this as an example. There was a guy, I have no clue who this guy is, never talked to him, did not know who he was. He watched the movie, he rented it for $4.99 on Amazon. He was so angry that he didn't like it. He sought me out on Facebook. I